Seconds before we go live. Are we doing callers or questions today?
If we do anything, it'll be the second half hour. We might take a call, but we're definitely taking questions.
Okay.
And we're live now.
Okay.
In that case, then send me a type in the chat if you're, just so I know ahead of time if you're going to take callers. That way I can get the lines ready and all that stuff.
Okay.
Otherwise, we got just a few seconds. Once you hear that music, we will be live.
Welcome to Seeing Beyond, Living Transformed with mediums Kelley Eckhart and Cheryl Murphy. Over the next hour, you'll hear engaging conversations that will guide you in your own journey of personal growth and transformation. Now, here are your hosts, Kelley Eckhart and Cheryl Murphy.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Seeing Beyond Living Transformed on Voice America and the Empowerment Channel. We want to welcome you today. We have a very special guest. We have a lovely topic today. We have a host and we have Kelley Eckhart with me today. I'm a little discombobulated there. My colleague is Kelley Eckhart, and our guest today is Debra Martin. I always want to say hi to Kelley first. So, Kelley, how are you today?
Oh, well, you know, I'm doing good. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, we're all in healing mode today. Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
But I want to introduce you to Debra Martin, if I could, because the topic of our show is called Healing Through Love with Debra Martin. Debra Martin is amazing. Her website is goldenmiracles.com. So I encourage you to check out her website and really sign up for anything that she has. If I could read a little bit about Debra before I bring her on. Debra is an intuitive healer and a certified research medium that specializes in spiritual healing and spiritual surgery sessions. She has authored 6 books. She's also had 3 near-death experiences and is a survivor of cancer. So Debra Martin, welcome to our program. I know an hour is not going to be enough time for people to get to know you, but if you would, I want to welcome you and thank you so much for your busy schedule for coming on our show today.
Oh my gosh, it's such an honor and a pleasure to meet you both and to be on your show.
Oh, Debra,
Thank you.
It's a joy. Just getting to know you and learning about all that you do. And listening to testimonials. I've watched YouTube channels all about you also. And you have a great program called Engage that we're going to be talking about on our program. I know that your t-shirt is super important for today. It's Army for Love. So there's so much to talk about. Can you just share with us, Debra, like how you got started or how you became, did you grow up with being a medium and a healer, or was it one of your near-death experiences, or how did it all start for you?
Well, when I was age 4, I started seeing spirit, and that was really scary. Back then it wasn't talked about like it is today. So, seeing faces coming towards me when I'm laying in bed, I was like, what is that? And so I always wanted to yell downstairs, can I come downstairs? And all I got was go to bed, right? And so the fear of that kind of pushed it within. And I always believe that we carry that ability. And when we're supposed to be enlightened or have the awareness that it's time, that's kind of what's happened through my life with my NDEs. So my first NDE, I had a premonition in a car accident in 1997. It was the same night that Princess Diana died.
Oh my.
And so I was out with some girlfriends, and you're watching that episode on TV. It's over on the screens everywhere. And then you have to get in the car, and you're like, I don't think I need to get in the car. And I was a single mother of 3 at the time. And my friends are like, you're just, because of what you saw on TV. And I felt something deep, deep within, like a premonition not to get in there. And so I did get into the back seat of a small little car, and going down the highway, I had another premonition that we were going to be hit. And before impact, I said, not now. Mm-hmm. And at that moment, we spun and took 40 feet of guardrail out. So to make the story short, divine intervention came, got us out of the car, kissed me on the forehead. And I still have his teeth marks on one of my rings to show that he was really there. And he kind of left and nobody saw him. That opened my spirituality. Like, what just happened? You know, why did that happen? Started going to seminars. Is this stuff real? And then again, in 2001, I was hit by another car. And this time I had an out-of-body experience. I was hit by a diabetic seizure going at between 50 and 60 miles an hour. And I was at a stop, and that's what stopped him. The police were on a pursuit to get him off the highway. I will say the roadway. And I remember watching it all from above going, oh, that doesn't look good, right? And there was a big truck carrying some tractors behind him. And I said, well, I'm done, right? But I didn't have fear. There was no fear at all. I was just watching it. And then I felt this strong presence behind me to say, are you ready? Mm-hmm. And I had just been, at that time, I was engaged and I had 3 kids, and I was like, no, life's too good. And the next second, I was in the back seat of what was a 4-door car, in the back seat, same as the other car wreck, in this little pocket, all windows blown out with a mouthful of glass. And I remember the police officer talking to the gentleman that was driving that car, that truck, right, and saying, are you okay? And he's like, no, I should have killed her. I don't know what took my steering wheel that last moment. Mm-mm. From that experience, I heard spirit. And I also knew I was in another dimension. So my abilities to my mediumship just blew up. And I then shortly after that went and got tested by Dr. Gary Schwartz and Dr. Julie Beischel. It was the Veritas lab during that time when I was tested. And that opened that mediumship up, and everything was going great. I'm like, okay. And then in 2012, I became very ill and sick. The Mayo Clinic couldn't find out what was wrong with me. And I was down to 90 pounds. I wasn't able to eat or drink anything. I was in a fetus position, just in screaming. If I took a sip of water or just a bite of cracker, it would take 24 to 48 hours of me not being in pain.
Oh my.
So at that point, you lose all dignity. I lost all dignity to even keep my bowels in check. I didn't want to be here anymore. Now I had 4 children, and that time my daughter, the youngest one, was in 3rd grade, and the other children were out of the home. So to think of they're going to be fine without me, right? And I'm just ready to go. That's what happens when you are in that critical space. You're really not thinking of your loved ones. You're just feeling the quality of my life, and I'm ready. I'm just ready. And I remember praying and asking that I am ready. And one day I saw a spiritual surgeon show up in my room. Somebody asked me once, this is funny, well, were you scared when you saw their knife? And I'm like, no, as a medium, I wasn't, but they were in scrubs. So it wasn't like it was scary, like do, you know? But anyway, so they proceeded to do some work on me, and it was very, very painful. And I knew that I had to go through the pain, but in order to go through the pain, I wanted to remove my mind, right? How do I do that? So I remember taking a deep breath just to calm myself. And as I did, I lifted out of my body and I floated up, and I came into a space where I was surrounded in white light. And I proceeded to see this white light coming close to me. And then how I describe God might not be what you would see God as. So when I describe it, it was as if I saw these arms reaching out for me, wearing a long robe. And now I'm seeing my body being carried. Okay. And as my body is being carried, my soul's watching this. And I'm saying, ooh, I must be sick. I'm being carried this time. Last time I was standing. This time I'm being held. And he placed me on a beam of light, and he took me into this space to have a conversation. And my conversation was pretty much like, remember these dates, 120, 112, all numbers are reversible, and so is this. Your time was on borrowed time, but you need to go back. You will have a new mission and duty. But by me signing this contract, God was also signing it. I didn't read anything more than that. I begged to stay because I wasn't in any pain. I felt loved. I felt safe. And I did ask, can I see my parents? My parents were on there. I was like, can I please see them? And he said, no, because if I see them, I wouldn't want to leave.
Right.
So I was held in a different dimension. I wasn't in heaven, right? And so I signed it, and I can remember coming back into my body, and it was like being held underwater for a long time and just going, oh, like that, taking a deep breath. And I could feel the soul going into the body. And at that moment I said, what just happened? Am I different? And everything shifted at that moment. I didn't heal immediately. I had to stand in my faith. I was told I would be healthy again. And that was part of what the growth I needed to do. And I then started healing with, at that time, a colleague of mine. And we were seeing miracles left and right. And I was like, okay, when God said I would be a voice, like, you're going to be a voice, I thought it was my mediumship, oh, well, I already have that voice. Well, what happened is that I'm using my mediumship in my healings, where I'm seeing loved ones come in, or I'm seeing spiritual surgeons come in, or I'm taking them on a spiritual journey, come to a place like where I was, except now they might receive a healing, words of guidance, or even a loved one will come to them that maybe they're grieving over. So the mediumship kind of takes on a whole different spin, because I'm laying there as their proxy. I have their picture on my abdomen. Some people will tell me what they're dealing with because they just feel comfortable for me to place that in their prayers prior. Some I don't need to know at all, because I don't want it to limit it, right? If you tell me I have brain cancer, then I'm going to go to the brain. But maybe that's not where it all started. So even though you may give me the details of what you're going through, I'll place that in the prayers, but I will not limit it to just that. And so while I'm receiving, I'm also feeling their pain, because I have to feel it to kind of a gift of knowing where the surgeons are at, right? And at the same time, they're working. I'm seeing loved ones. I might be on a spiritual journey. There's just so much that's going on. And so, as a healer, I was then faced with cancer. How do you face cancer going, now, really? Like, I am helping so many. Why do I have to have cancer? And how will my colleagues or people look at me if I'm a healer and I have cancer? Like, do I share it? Do I not share it? What am I going to learn from this? What's this about? And I remember saying, well, I have enough compassion. I do. When you're faced with something where you don't know if you're going to survive, life becomes more valuable and you see it in a whole different way. And so I learned that the love, I call them love healings, God's love healings. It's the love that we're embracing ourselves with. It's the love that's coming through that energy. And it's, I had to love myself, but I had to love the cancer. They always say, fight that cancer. You can beat it. Yes. That's okay to say that. But to me, when we fight something, think about it, when we're fighting something in our mind, we're resisting it, right? We're not really healing it. And so if we have the cancer and we're fighting it, the magnets aren't going to go together.
Right.
But if you just love the cancer, it's like having a child come into your house, room and say, I'm so sick, I have a fever. And you're like, I'm angry with you, go away. You're not, you're right. You're going to embrace them.
True.
So you need to embrace the cancer. And then what I learned through that is, having cancer now, anyone that I do help with cancer, I'm not just looking in like I was. I'm now there walking that walk with them. I can see it from their view, through their eyes, where before I would have no idea. So I learned from it. I believe some of our hardest lessons become our greatest blessings. And we should see the blessings as we're walking through some of the healings that we have to go through. in life, and there are challenges. Life isn't a bunch of roses, right? We have some hardships, and during that hardships, how are we going to decide to walk through it? And that's kind of what I've learned through the cancer. How am I going to walk through this? And I just kept telling myself, all is well, either way. If I pass, I'm going to be okay. If I'm here, I'm okay. And I surrendered, and I released the control to the highest divine, whether you call it God, the absolute one, whatever name you give it. And by doing that, I no longer hung on to that heaviness of trying to make it be one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also asked cancer the question, what do you want me to learn from you?
Oh, good question.
What do you want me to learn from you? And once you learn the lesson, I remember calling it my beast. You're just my beast inside me. And in the end, I wrote a book called Doctor's Faith and Courage. And I saw the beauty in my beast.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's all about. It's like the miracles and my cancer, the two books really are one,
Mm-hmm.
because I've had to not only do the miracles, right? See the miracles and be the healer, but now I had to become the person in the book. And then how do I, as a healer, do I receive medicine? What do I do? And I think it's up to each individual, but I prayed and felt what I heard for myself was, why wouldn't you use every tool in the toolbox?
Mm-hmm.
And trust the process? You don't like your doctor, then don't go to your doctor. Be your own advocate for your own body.
Yep.
And because you know it better than anyone else.
Sure.
And so I can share too a little bit about miracles, right? People say, well, in their mind, a miracle means that they're 100% cured, right? So I am God's instrument and vessel. I release my humanness aside, and I have to just allow it to come through. As mediums, you both know that it's not up to you what you're receiving, right? You're just the vessel.
Yes.
And so my intention is always, I want that 100% miracle, but I don't know what that means. Miracle comes in many forms. So I'll give you 3 short stories. One story was of a woman that had cancer, breast cancer, for 20 years. And she actually suffered from shame since she was 4 years old. So that was 40 years of shame from her father. So her father comes through, which she would have never done on her own, through her healing, has a conversation with her to remove the shame. And little by little, it didn't happen instantaneously, but the cancer went in remission, and her doctors call it a walking miracle because she had it for 20 years. She had chemo, everything, nothing helped. And so you see that healing can be a process. She watched it, she kept her faith.
Mm-hmm.
Now, healing can happen instantaneously. I had a woman that had mental illness. And during her mental illness, her healing, hers was miraculous. She took a spiritual journey, and she saw herself as a child, and she had to hug the inner child, heal the inner child within her. And come to find out, she had 20 years of mental illness. She committed suicide twice attempt. She was in hospitalization for her mental illness, one for 1 month, one for 4 months. So this wasn't something this was ongoing. And this was her last resort, was this healing. And she had a conversation with God and hugging that inner child, and God hugging her. And one thing that came through, it's so, so fascinating. I saw us going on a spiritual journey, and I'm like, okay, and I'm not with you. This is long distance, right? She's in another state or even another country. So I'm voicing this, and then they get the MP4 after. Okay. So I'm like, what is she going to think about this? I feel like we're Mary Poppins, and we're going up like to another dimension, like Mary Poppins. Well, come to find out that they call her Mary Poppins as a nickname. Her mother says when she travels to Germany, she throws everything in her bag like Mary Poppins. And she learned English by watching Mary Poppins.
Oh.
So hearing all of that was like, oh, who would have known, right? But she said that before she even ended the session, so I say sit in your quiet space for an hour, she goes, what just happened? I'm different. So before she even listened to it, she was healed. 100%. Like she goes, I was outside and couldn't see the sunshine. I walked outside after the healing and could feel the sunshine.
Oh, it's a blessing.
So it was just a blessing. And then you have people that are passing and you go, okay, so what can I give them? You know, is it maybe maybe they're supposed to pass, right? Maybe this is part of their journey. And who am I to reject that, to have that healing? So one lady had peace in passing because her father came through and said, I'll be there with her. And she passed three weeks later. And she told her husband, my dad's here. He's wearing the suit he told me he would be. And so she didn't have that fear of the unknown. She knew her dad would be there. And the other person was passing. We really felt she had 3 months, she was told. I thought for sure she was healed. I'm like, you are healed. She felt she was healed. She had 2 weeks of feeling like she was back to normal. She got to spend life with her friends, laughing, not in pain. And then out of nowhere, she dies. And I said, what was that all about? Well, she was able to shed all the unworthiness that she carried for so long. So she was healed and was able to transcend without holding on any of that and having the quality of life 2 weeks before she passed. So where's the miracle, right? And how do miracles come? In so many different ways. And I am, like I said, just the instrument vessel. I cannot guarantee, but I know that they come in many forms for the people that come.
It's beautiful. I love that. I am a firm believer in miracles, and I've personally witnessed many in my own life since birth. And I just think that's amazing that you can kind of bring that perspective to people to see that even though it's not what they're expecting, it's still a miracle.
And that's just it. I had one lady say, because she didn't receive the miracle that she wanted, right? But her friend said, well, what kind of miracle did you get? And she goes, what kind of miracle did you want me to get? I got the miracle that I needed. Yes. And she knew deep within what she received was exactly what she needed. And so that was a great way to answer, right? I received the miracle I needed. Mm-hmm. And yes, I think miracles are for us and those are listening that might be struggling in any way, emotionally, physically, or spiritually, never lose hope. Right. Because that's where I started losing hope, remember when I had that illness, just take me, right? Because I didn't have any dignity. But I had lost hope. I did. Because no one was helping me. And that's why I built this Army for Love. Because you need to have that support. You need to build that army. And if you have no loved ones here, because some people don't have family.
No, they don't.
Army can mean like your ancestors on one side, another spirit loved one on another. I always say you always have one walking in front of you to guide you, one behind you so you never fall back, one on each side to walk with you. That's why the 4 is there, all sides. And so you just build that army of support and love. And because love is what heals. It does.
Can I ask you, Debra, so before your near-death experiences, were you afraid of dying, or was there a fear there that there are for many people? And then after you had those experiences, the fear was removed?
I think I really wasn't paying attention to dying. I had the 4 children. I was a busy mom. Mm-hmm. I know when my parents passed, it was very, very hard on me. And it wasn't like I was questioning where they were, but I didn't have the abilities of the mediumship yet. So I was just going through the grieving process like everybody does. That experience of the car accidents, I had fear for a long time of, am I going to have another car accident? Am I going to leave my body again? Mm. I've had to really try to heal and focus that. And it was the experience on 1/21/12 that going to that space, seeing that space, really feeling that embrace of love, not wanting to come back. Now that experience, I am no longer afraid to die.
That's beautiful. And we have so many more questions to ask you, Debra. And just for everyone who's just joining us, we are with Debra Martin, who has a website, goldenmiracles.com. She's sharing with us the books that she's written, her near-death experiences, and her healing in her mediumship. And that's what we'll be talking about during the next break. I mean, after this break. Debra, I do want to ask you, because you mentioned in the story, one of your stories, you're seeing a gentleman, a surgeon with the knife who's going to be helping you healing. Was this a guide for you, or who do you feel that was? Was that someone recognizable?
It wasn't recognizable at all. And it wasn't a guide of mine. It was just someone that was brought to me through God to perform on my body what needed to happen. And I can remember them cutting me open. I can remember the pain of them suctioning out a lot of toxins. And that pain was so painful that I needed to leave. But I trusted. I had a trust. I had a trust with my mediumship with spirit. I trusted they were there for a good reason. And I trusted that there's a higher divine source. So there was no fear.
That's beautiful. And then after, let me just ask you now, how are you? How is your health? How is
Yes, good question.
Gone? Is in remission?
Everything's gone. Everything's gone. Yeah, I'm over 3 years right now, cancer free. And that's another thing. You still have to have your checkups up to 5 years.
Right.
And the one thing for people that are going through checkups, that can be like fearful, like, oh, what if,
yeah.
right? Whenever you have that what if, change it to the positive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I always say, okay, God, I'm going in again. We're going to prove that it's still gone. Let's go. And I look at it more of an exciting journey, like, okay, another proof. Here we go. And so I walk the walk with gratitude each step of the way, because I really believe gratitude has a lot to do with how you heal.
So true. So true.
And I love that you said you talked to your cancer, like you spoke to your cancer. What am I to learn? What are my lessons to learn here?
My husband did that.
Did he?
Really?
Yeah. Well, he read it in a book, so he started doing it. Yes.
And it worked. And it worked.
He's
here.
Yeah.
Yes, he's
and so
free.
When I would go into my, like when I had chemo pills, those, you're like, oh, I don't want to have those chemo pills. Oh, right? You're like, really? And I felt like you have to pray on those chemo pills. You have to be gratitude for those. I'm like, okay, I'm going to really have gratitude here. And I remember I had 19 pills.
Oof.
And so I would take 2 by 2, hold them in a dish, pray on them, digest them, and really giving love to them. Right? Because this is part of my healing.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember going into the radiation, seeing the big machine and going, that's a little scary. So the first day I went through with fear. The second day I decided to go in and embrace the machine and thanking the machine. And it ended up being my God time. That's when I heard the word Army for Love. And
let's keep that for after the break, because we do want to talk about Army for Love, everyone. We want to talk about the Engage program. There's just so much. We're with Debra Martin on her website, goldenmiracles.com. Thank you for tuning in. You are watching Seeing Beyond Living Transformed. Myself, Cheryl Murphy, and my colleague, Kelley Eckhart. We'll be right back after this break.
You're clear.
Thank you.
Debra, I'm going to post some questions in here from Facebook and from the email, and feel free to answer any that you would like. And I'm going to try to post them in individually by the person's name. And everybody on Facebook, we probably won't be taking calls today. We're going to talk more in depth about Debra's book, her miracles, and so many other things. So you can definitely send in some questions and we'll try to answer them.
I really want to answer Beth's that came through. So when that time is right, you can read it. And I'd
we'll
be
wait
happy
till
to
after
answer
the
that.
break.
Mm-hmm.
I'm putting in a few more.
Great.
Hi, everyone on live Facebook and YouTube and Seeing Beyond Radio. We have Debra Martin with us. I'm with Kelley Eckhart, and it's always been a joy to be with you on Wednesdays on our radio show. So we're just so happy to be here. We're happy you're here. We're happy to meet Debra Martin. Oh my gosh. I mean, I can feel your energy, Debra, just from the mediumship. I can't wait to get in and talk to you about mediumship and healing and all the more work that you do. So everyone stay tuned. We have another half hour. We'll be going back in just a moment here.
Okay. So we have some good questions.
That the IBS too, people have that, and fibromyalgia and things like that. That'd be a good one as well.
I like the life review one because I can talk about that one too. But that'll be good to talk about after the commercial.
All right, we're coming back in about 10 seconds.
Thank you.
Kelley, will you bring us back after the break? Or
sure.
Okay, cool.
And do you want me to talk about the radiation and the pills again? Or no, we broke at that point, didn't we?
You're listening to Seeing Beyond, Living Transformed with Kelley and Cheryl. If you have questions for the hosts or guests, you can join us on the show at 888-346-9141. That's 888-346-9141. Now let's get back to the show. Here again are Cheryl and Kelley.
Welcome back, everybody. You're listening or watching Seeing Beyond, Living Transformed on Voice America, and we're here today with Debra Martin. And we came back at 333. I love numbers. Thank you, Cheryl, for pointing that out. And we're going to continue discussing amazing things with Debra here. And I have a few questions that we've been asked, and I think I already gave her a few. I'm just going to read the first one from Beth. All right, Debra. Beth is saying she had a brain aneurysm in May, and she has another surgery coming up. Can you help with what her lesson could be? And, she's struggling right now. Anything that you could help her out with, that'd be great.
So when we have another surgery, that puts panic, that puts another trigger, that's, oh my gosh, what's going on? Anytime I go into surgery, what I do is I surround myself and think of it, okay, Spirit's going to be with me. God's going to be at my side. He's going to apply healing to me. So you start with gratitude. Thank you. Stay in the I ams, or, I am going to be healed. I am standing with God. I am going to be okay. Be really careful with your choices of words. So secondly, when I go into a surgery, I like to bring the doctors to me, anesthesiologist and the person performing it, and I give gratitude to them. And you should see the way they shift, their energy shifts it just for you. And that's you giving gratitude for them as well, because they're going to give you something that your body needs. Thank you for the studies you did for me, for being here, that I can have this today. Secondly, when they cover you with that white blanket, every time they covered me with a white blanket for PET scans or even for my radiation, I use that as God's white light blanket, embracing and holding me this entire time with this healing light and love. And it gave me that peace. So that's what I want you to do, so that you can release that fear, walking in knowing that all is well and will be well. And to answer the question of why are you struggling right now, I would ask yourself that question. Ask that, why is this showing up again? What I haven't learned from it. What do you want me to learn from you, so that we can just be done? So I wish you so much. I hope this helped, and I wish you much healing and blessings to you.
And Debra, I love that you're talking about, asking what our lesson is. Do we have to figure that out right away? Because I know my husband still, asked that question, and it's been a year,
I think it'll show up when it's supposed to show up, because you're learning along the way. And so I didn't learn cancer right away. It took, me to go through the entire treatments and everything, but I had to be present in each moment. Now, had the time to be present each moment because I was going through cancer. When we are going through a struggle, let's say it's relationship or even something in life, right? Grief. We don't have the time necessarily to give to that. So that could take longer for us to see and learn that lesson.
So Beth already messaged us and said that is so wonderful. And she said, I don't have enough words to thank you. So thank you, Debra.
Oh,
That was very
welcome.
helpful to her.
Got the
And
chills.
I love that question because I frequently, ask myself that about things in life. Like when I lost my son, I try not to focus on necessarily the grief. I'm going to grieve always, right? But I tried to focus on like, what lessons have I learned and what am I grateful for from this pain and things like
Right.
that. And that's been a real huge, thing that's helped me heal through
Yeah.
the time that since he's passed. And whenever I feel sad or things like that, I try to remember what I'm so grateful for about, being his mom and having him as my child for 20 years and now having him a spirit relationship with him for the last 6. And, those things I try to find the gratitude in. So I think that works not just with healing for, illnesses, but also for pain, like emotional
I think,
pain.
right. And for people that think I don't have to feel to heal, it's important to have those emotions. It's important to allow yourself to cry. I heard this one person say that she allows the grief, she lost her child, to come in the door for 20 minutes. She physically opens the door every morning. It has that 20 minutes and then asks us to leave and shuts the door. So she's allowing herself, she's honoring herself, she's honoring those feelings. And lessons and hardships are opportunity for growth.
Yes.
Right. And so that's what we have to
changes.
remember. It changes us, it shifts us. I mean, I look at my NDEs. Do I want them to happen again? No, but it made me who I am today. So can I see them as blessings now? Yes. So it might take years for you to see that.
Right.
Some people never see it at all.
And I don't think it's just one lesson either. I mean, the longer we reflect or whenever they come up, it's like there's another lesson to learn from that experience.
Right.
There's another
Right.
grow and mature and evolve. And it's like, oh, there's another. We're able to see a little bit more into it, so to speak.
Right.
Or
Right.
perceive that.
I would love to read this other question from Alejandra. She emailed this and she says, I have a question for today. I have noticed a pattern that happens in my life. I am an energy healer as well. The pattern is that every few months, something triggers my fear and I get caught in a loop for a few weeks with fear and then it goes away. The fear can be debilitating. I have noticed it's been a pattern in my life since I was a child and I would love to break this pattern. Any advice would be greatly appreciated.
So there's two things that intuitively I heard. She said it started when she was a child. So I'd like her to close her eyes and visualize, maybe even get a picture of herself out as when she was a child. Go back to that space and hug yourself and tell your child that now where you are today, tell that child that they're safe, that they're okay, that they're going to be okay. And that can start the healing from way deep within. The triggers and the fear, we all get triggers at times, right? And then I love that you're aware of them because that's the first step. Once you're aware that trigger is starting, then what I want you to do is just take a deep breath. And at that very moment, because you're feeling the fear and you're feeling that it's going to take you down, at that very moment, take a deep breath in and tell yourself, I'm safe. Because at that moment you are. Where are you? You're safe. Nothing's happening to you. You're just feeling it and going through it. So stop the thinking and go to the I am safe. I am at peace. I am okay. Keep saying that because then all of a sudden you'll feel it and embrace you with it. But then you're able to stop the trigger from spiraling yourself down. So it's being aware and then applying it. Breathing through it, because that's what you have to do your part, and then letting it go. Right? Once we let it go, it's no longer there for us to feel. So we're aware, we're surrounding ourselves with that love by breathing and saying those words, and then we're letting that go so that we're not going to go back to that trigger. I hope that helps.
That's beautiful. I like that. I think a lot of times I'm always rewriting the voice in my head from childhood. And I always say, like, in the beginning, the voice is, it's not a nice voice, right? And you're like, be quiet. And I'm always like talking in my voice and rewriting the words. So whenever something negative pops up in my head, I immediately change it to something positive. And I've been doing this for about 12 years now. And I can say I hardly ever have negative thoughts pop up anymore. And they never even get a chance to finish when they do pop up, because my brain's already wired now to just flip it immediately. And I think it can work. Lots of things like that work. So I love that.
I like what you just said. You said a powerful message here. It takes time, but you're rewiring it. So the triggers that are taking over right now, but as you get into this pattern, this becomes your new pattern, and the old pattern goes away. That was beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, of course, I can't take the credit. I know Spirit taught me that. But, I was going through a rough time at my about 12 years ago in life, and they always come to me in dreams and take me to I leave my body and we go to the white room to learn.
I love that. I love that.
Everybody's wearing white, and it's this white room, and there's white marker boards, and it's a classroom. So they talked to me about rewiring my brain.
I love it.
And so I started doing it back then. We have another really great couple of questions I wanted to get to. So this one here I think is really important, because I'm sure this is going to apply to a lot of people. So it's from Maria C. She says, how can I heal my bodily pain from head to toe? Fibromyalgia, spinal stenosis, Achilles tendonitis, neuropathy, and radiculopathy, Hashimoto's disease, IBS-D, which I think is a more severe version, and lung disease.
Okay, so
what's going on
as
here?
you keep hearing and hearing and hearing and hearing, these become they become your label of who you are, right? And I'm not discrediting you for having these, because a lot of people have this, and they're told, I have fibromyalgia, I have IBS, and some of the other things that you said, and they're serious. And it's I'm going to just go to the IBS, like frustrating, all of a sudden it's like, I thought I was doing better, and now it takes you back. And that's frustration, is that resistance of, because now it's that trigger. Oh, here I am again. Or the pain from the fibromyalgia. Oh, now I'm feeling it again. And I go back to sending your body love. And the other thing you can do is just in prayer, you're rubbing your hands together and you're saying, give me the energy that I need for my body right now. Place it in my hands. If you don't like to rub them like this, just place your hands up. Sit there for a while and feel them start to get tingly, right? And you'll feel them in your palms, and then place it on your hands anywhere you feel like your body needs that love, right? That calmness, and just say, thank you, thank you, thank you, and feel it and breathe it. So you're receiving it, you're accepting it, and you're giving gratitude for it. And that exercise should help.
Oh, I love that. That is beautiful.
It's more about I love the hands when you're teaching people, Debra, reminding them that they are part of the healing. They're part of their own healing.
We are.
So in Qigong, they teach that your palms are receivers, right? And so I always have everybody keep their palms up to receive, but your fingers are like antennas. So all of us are energy, and we can attract that energy. We just have to ask,
yes,
and then receive and apply.
I love it. And You're so generous answering these questions,
Yes,
Debra.
thank
We do
you.
have more coming in. And before we do take another question, Debra, I'd like you to share with us the t-shirt you're wearing, the Army for Love, the Engage program. Can you tell us? I saw it on your website, but I'd love to hear you describe it.
So if you go to my Engage page, it's everything's on there, from signing up for a prayer, going to my Army for Love apparel. I heard to create these, and it's to just support a loved one. So a loved one that's going through any kind of illness, you embrace them, say, wear this and look in the mirror and remember you are loved. Remember that they're all around you on four sides. So people with chemo have sweatshirts, they get cold, embrace yourself with that army of love. And it's just a reminder, I have so much passion for it. So that's all on the Engage page. The events are on the Engage page. So the Engage page says a lot. My YouTube is there. So if you really want to hear that story about the mental illness that was cured, she speaks for 20 minutes and shares her entire story on there. It's fabulous. So there's a lot of miracles that you can listen to on there. So I would encourage you to go to the Engage page, and then the contact page has all the Instagram and Facebook connections as well. Thank you for mentioning that.
Oh, of course. And just to let people understand how they can reach out to you, I mean, your website is goldenmiracles.com. And what you're describing is you do remote healing. You work with people around the world, right?
It's all remote. It's all remote. I find that I was doing them in person, and I find that they're really more profound when you're not there. Like, for instance, one woman said, had I come into your healing room, you would have seen what was wrong with me. But hear you voice that my left side was higher than my right side. I didn't understand that in the session. I was just seeing it. And she said, one of my breasts were removed. And you would have seen that if I would have been there, but you had no idea. And so it just becomes more profound because I know nothing. I can't pick up on your energy. And it allows you to stay in your sacred place. When we're not feeling good, we don't want to travel, right? And I can do this from around the world, where people might be sleeping during the time of their healing. It doesn't matter what time it is or where you are, energy travels. And that's the beauty of it. Mm-hmm.
It does. And I love that. I used to have people send healing to my son when he was in Colorado and we were in California, because he was going through a rough time. And I can remember him picking up the phone at 9 o'clock at night when I had a bunch of healers. We're all like meditating, giving him healing. And he says, Mom, what are you doing to me? And I said, what do you mean? He goes, I just feel all warm and fuzzy, and I know it has to do with you.
That's cute.
Yeah, it was funny. Anyways, I love that it does. We don't have to be in person. It's so true. And I love that you made that point.
Thank you.
We do have another really good question I'd love to ask you. And I actually want to share my experience with this as well, but I would love to hear your answer. Christine Moloney asked, did you have a life review when you had your near-death experiences?
I did not have a life review. Basically, I was seeing the first car accident. I was seeing, myself in another dimension, and that was showing me that there was another dimension. And in the other out-of-body experience, I was taken to another space where I know was a healing space, a place where only I was going to hear those words. No one else in the universe would hear them. And so it wasn't my time to really pass and see those things. It was my time to move forward. So I didn't get that.
So, and I had an interesting experience. So I've had some near-death experiences as a small child, but I was so connected to the spirit world that I wasn't really aware that had happened until recently. Listening to people and their near-death stories, going, oh, that used to happen to me all the time as a child. But anyways, that's another story. When my son passed, we were very connected. Even when he was in the womb, I could read his mind. He could read mind. It was just a strange relationship I always had with this child. And so when he passed, I immediately felt still connected, as if he was still here. And I started going through every night a life review with him. And it was just our experiences. And I went all the way back to when he was in my womb. And I was in my womb with him in this life review. It was quite an amazing experience. And it was as if we were walking, well, we were walking through a desert. And I love your book with the door, how it opens up. Because each to the left and to the right, there was like these random doorways, kind of like that, but they were circular. And it was just like a little area we could walk in. And then in there, we were both having an experience at a certain time in our life. And we were watching and observing it now. And feeling each other's emotions and feeling each other's pain. And there were like no words. It was just as if we understood what the other went through, and we were apologizing to each other in our own way. And it was so beautiful. So I imagine that like everybody's life review, you know, they don't necessarily go through that with the living, right? They usually go through that on their own, or perhaps they even go through that with other people on the other side that help them and walk them through it. So I feel very blessed to have experienced that. And I just wonder if there is anybody that has gone through that, you know, a little bit of a life review during a near-death experience. Be interesting.
I like how you said, you know, you're in the womb together. It's like you were one.
We were, yeah.
Right? And you didn't need to communicate by words. You communicated in your mind. And that's how it was when I crossed over, hearing
Understood.
the words through the divine. You were connecting through the mind. And when I do my healing sessions, that's what I'm asking. I'm asking for the highest divine, myself and my client, to become one, so that I'm feeling what they're feeling and they're feeling what I'm feeling at the same time in two different spaces. And that's what you were doing in your life review. I know people that, and myself with a past life regression, I've seen those doors and gone through that, but not in the NDE. That was fascinating.
Yeah. And mine was, you know, so I've astral traveled my whole life. I mean, it's just something I thought was normal. And when I first started talking about it as a child, realized like I was the only one really kind of doing it other than my mom. And so I had learned that I had to kind of keep my mouth shut about those. You know, I just thought everybody could do it. But, you know, my son that passed, we always had that connection. I could see through his eyes when he was doing something bad. And I would immediately come outside. And I think when he was about 9, he's like, I can't do anything bad because it's like, you know, and it's like, you're always getting me right as I'm about to, you know, do something I'm not supposed to do. And I said, yeah, I know. I said, because I can see, I know what you're doing. And so he always told me the truth. And, you know, it was difficult because he was on this mission to live life to the fullest. So it was interesting.
My children would always say that too. Like, we can never get anything, you know, beyond mom. She would know what was going on. We'd walk in the door and they're like, oh, she already knows.
Yeah, she already knows.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you do that as a mom. This was a little bit different, but yeah, I mean, it's because I really could just see who he was with. It was like I was looking through his eyes. And so he would just tell me the truth. And, you know,
what a beautiful relationship.
It was, you know, I mean, but it was also hard.
It's probably showing you, though, now that he's on the other side, that doesn't change.
No, I still see things through his eyes. I do. You know, yeah, I do. And he brings me people where he's my worker. Like, we work together, awesome. You know, my helper.
And what a blessing.
It is. I mean, he's got quite a sense of humor. I'll tell you that.
I love it.
So, brings me some interesting readings and I enjoy them. So, yeah.
We have just a couple of minutes left, really just about a minute left, but would you please, Debra, share with our audience what's like one thing we can do to help ourselves with our own healing? I know gratitude is so important. The words we speak to ourselves, the I am. What can you impart on us? You know, there's just the program just isn't long enough for you, please. But just
I think to answer that really quickly is joy. Joy raises our vibration. When we're stuck at home and we're feeling down, or even when we're going through cancer or an illness, when you have somebody come over that makes you laugh, that joy, it takes that pain away. You just, you know, it raises the vibration. If you can't leave the house and you have no one, then look outside, you know, have joy for the birds, have joy. I
Animals.
remember I was I never liked doing laundry. And then when I could again, I was like, oh, I have joy today. I get to do laundry.
Yeah.
So it's just the simple things that can
Yes.
bring us joy. And we just have to see it. So my advice is find one piece of joy in every day.
Well, that's great advice. And it was a pleasure meeting you, Debra. Definitely
Oh.
gonna keep in touch.
Yeah,
And
lifelong friends, I
yeah,
feel.
yeah, I do. And I want to find out more about you. So maybe I'll make an appointment.
You're sweet. I'd love to hear from you. We could talk not on here. How's that?
Yeah.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for being with us today. Kelley, it's been a joy being with you today. I just want to say I'm happy to be with you. Debra, I mean, we feel like we've been touched by an angel today. So thank you for lifting our
thank
hearts
you.
today. And for everyone watching us, it's a joy being with you. We've enjoyed today, seeing beyond living transformed. All of you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.